Ms. Argenteri, in response to my February letter this year about the Crime Victim Fund, the Justice Department said that the ABB Limited agreed to pay $315 million criminal penalty as part of a deferred prosecution agreement. That agreement, quote, resulted in a significant deposit in the fund, end of quote. However, the terms of the agreement stated only $72.5 million would be collected by the United States. The rest would be reduced by up to $242 million to settle other claims, including $179 million involving foreign governments. I'm looking for the financial details. How much of the $315 million was actually collected and deposited in the Crime Victim Fund?
Thank you for your question, Senator. I agree with you that the Crime Victims Fund is essential to providing compensation and assistance to victims who, in the wake of crime, both physical, emotional, and financial assistance. The Crime Victims Fund, and I want to thank many of the members in this room for amending the Crime Victims Fund to make it possible to put fines from non-prosecution agreements, deferred prosecution agreements into the fund.
How much of the $315 million was actually collected and deposited in that fund?
So, Senator,
I know all about the fund. You don't have to tell me about that. I just want to know how much money went to it.
So I know that the fund currently has over $1 billion in it for this year. As to how much precisely from that resolution went into the Crime Victims Fund, I would have to get back to you on that, and I commit to doing so.
Okay. Now, I appreciate the fact you might not know now, and you said you're going to get back to us. Will you get back to us?
I commit to doing so.
Okay. Then tell me why the U.S. criminal penalty offset by payment to foreign authorities is the same done for the United States by other countries?
So many of the cases that we bring, we seek to bring the most impactful cases so that we can affect change across industries and global change. Here, the resolution involved, it was historic, and it was our first resolution with South Africa. And so part of the work that we do as part of the anti-piling on is making sure that when we do these resolutions, where it's important to have cooperation from foreign countries because that's how we get evidence internationally, we do credit foreign governments as part of our anti-piling on policy to make sure that the end of the resolution is just and fair.
Yeah. Also, the 2022 Criminal Division Fraud Section year-end report stated that it imposed more than $1.15 billion in U.S. criminal monetary penalties for corporate offenders. As you're aware, imposed is one thing. It doesn't necessarily mean collected. Of this $1.1 billion, how much was collected, and of that amount, how much was deposited in the Crime Victim Fund?
So thank you for your question. I think that the fraud year-end review report is helpful to providing transparency about our work. And as to how much of that $1.3 billion went into the fund, that's another thing that I commit to getting back to you on.
Okay, will you get back to me on that?
Yes.
Okay. Also for you, last week, Director Wray said the FBI is unfairly blamed when agents aren't prosecuted for FISA abuses because the FBI makes prosecution referrals but doesn't have the authority to prosecute. Is the FBI referring FISA abusers to the Justice Department for prosecution, and is the Justice Department declining to prosecute?
So the department must hold itself to the highest standards, and that means conducting our work by the book, and it means that we hold anyone accountable who's engaged in wrongdoing. I can't speak to any or confirm any potential investigations, but I can tell you that when we are looking at charges against individuals or companies, we follow the facts and the law, and we apply the principles of federal prosecution.
Do you believe that folks who knowingly help others submit material false information to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court should be criminally or civilly liable for that false submission?
I think as department employees, we must hold ourselves to the highest standard, and that where we fall short, we should be held accountable.
Do you think that these people that give this false information should be criminally and civilly liable for that false information?
So I can't speak hypothetically to these individuals. I'm not sure.
I'm not asking about an individual. I'm just asking about the whole mass of people that might fall in this category.
The Department of Justice prosecutes violations of federal law.
And then lastly, to you, according to the Sentencing Commission in 2022, the Justice Department brought a case against an offending corporate officer or employee only 60% of the times it charged the corporation. The Justice Department doesn't appear to target COs. Why is that number so low?
So if I could just speak for a second about the types of cases the criminal division is doing, we do try to do the most impactful cases, which can be complex, they can be time-consuming, but we think that we have shown significant results. As to your question on corporate executives, this year alone, we have charged over 30 corporate executives, including the CEO of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, who pled guilty last month. Last week, we charged a different CEO of a publicly traded healthcare company for securities fraud and healthcare fraud. Holding individuals accountable is our highest priority in this area because companies can only act through individuals, and companies themselves cannot go to jail. So we are very focused on individual prosecutions.